Vacation's over, let's get back to work. Hello, my name is Nick Carroll, and I want to talk about some issues related to the new Nexus devices, and I'm going to do so this week in a series of videos before progressing on to some of the other topics down the road that I want to talk about for this channel. But today, I'm going to focus on the new iteration of Nexus smartphone and talk about what I believe is the next generation Nexus 5. This perhaps you might consider it as the Nexus 5 2014 edition, or maybe the Gen 2 Nexus 5, whatever. As many of you know, typically when Google announces a new smartphone or tablet, they phase out the most recent version of that product from their Android marketplace or Google Play Store. For example, when the Nexus 4 came out, Google stopped selling the Galaxy Nexus, and a month before the Nexus 5 came out, the 4 went on a fire sale, and after stock was completely eliminated, the Nexus 5 was announced. Also, the first edition of the Nexus 7 tablet was replaced by the new Nexus 7 when that came out, and the Nexus 10, while never having an immediate replacement, went out of stock indefinitely and was no longer listed on the Play Store when the Nexus 9 tablet arrived. However, the same day the Nexus 6 smartphone was announced, unusually, some versions of the Nexus 5 were still available on the Play Store. The white version later sold out, as the red version was already sold out, but the black version was then restocked nearly a week later and was available for the better part of a full week before selling out entirely. And as near as I have been able to tell in my occasional visit since then, no versions have been restocked. But at the time of this video, the Nexus 5 is still listed there, though all versions are unavailable. So let's cut to today. As far as I know, the Nexus 5 will still be listed on the Play Store for some time, but I anticipate it going away eventually. You can still purchase it online, just not through the Play Store. So why am I making this video about a new Nexus 5 if you can still get the existing Nexus 5 online, if not through the Play Store? Well, here's my answer. In my opinion, the Nexus name is something that has changed over time. Originally it was for contract-free, carrier-unlocked, developer-friendly phones that didn't have their warranties voided due to rooting the phone or otherwise modifying the software. And you got OS updates before anyone else. They weren't necessarily the cheapest devices around, but they are designed by Google, developed by an Android OEM, and there were some carrier variants you could also get on a subsidy if interested. With the advent of the Nexus 7 tablet and Nexus 4 smartphone in 2012, all of a sudden the Nexus lineup became well known for being extremely price competitive options for decent hardware with a stock Android experience. And because of this, a lot of us got spoiled to that idea. And a year later, the Nexus 5 and new Nexus 7 tablet kept the stereotype alive. This year, we got the Nexus 6 smartphone and Nexus 9 tablet, and no longer were these devices coming with a merely modest but respectable hardware at budget prices. These were premium items with significant price tags. A bargain $350 to $400 smartphone was replaced with a $650 to $700 behemoth, and the two competing tablet options from last year were replaced with one tablet with, well, less than compelling build quality and aspect ratio for its screen for its price. But I'll get into that in my next video. So you want to buy a brand new Nexus smartphone, but you feel like the size and price of the Nexus 6 are a bit too much. Well, here's where the new Nexus 5 comes in. I present to you the new Motorola Moto X. And before I lose too many of you with this announcement, let me explain. Sure, it's a $500 smartphone instead of a $350 smartphone, but I submit to you the days of the $350 Nexus smartphones are over, at least as far as we knew it with the Nexus 4 and Nexus 5. Let's go back to all the other things that made the Nexus great outside of pricing. Unlocked phones that you can buy outside of carrier stores that get Android OS updates in a timely manner, and they represent a stock Android. And you're buying a developer version straight from the OEM at a reasonable outright price. And if you take a look at the new Moto X ordering the Pure Edition or the old Moto X, the developer edition, you get everything you get out of a Google Nexus device with a few added programs that you can use that are provided by Motorola that you can also uninstall if you don't want them. In practically every way, the new Moto X is better than last year's LG Nexus 5. It has a larger 5.2-inch screen, a faster and more powerful CPU and GPU, a larger battery, a better camera, a louder speaker with better placement on the front instead of at the bottom, and the Android updates come about just as fast as you can get on a Nexus device, and in some cases even quicker. Plus, you can customize the look and feel of a phone and get accessories for it. Remember how spotty the accessory support was from Google with their devices? This is less of an issue with the new Moto X. But wait, there's more. There's one more thing I want to say before I close this video out. There's more than one new Nexus 5 smartphone. What? Yes, I said it, and here's why. The new Moto X isn't the only high-end 5.2-inch display smartphone around that you can order outright for reasonable pricing. How about the $500 HTC Desire I? This also comes with the same CPU and GPU as the Moto X, the new Moto X. You know, a 5.2-inch 1080p screen, but whereas this only has 2 color options, unlike the new Moto X, which has a lot more color options, etc. And this phone is a little bit taller. It does have dual front-facing boom sound speakers and a front-facing 13-megapixel camera. And it also comes with an SD card slot supporting up to 128 gigabytes and a slightly larger battery. Now, some people might say the Desire I has Sense on it instead of stock Android. And how do we know that this phone will even get timely OS updates? Well, HTC is committed to providing the newest version of Android, Lollipop, within 90 days for this phone and all the phones in the One series. And there are dozens of launchers that you can get either for free or at a modest but respectable price. And even Google provides their own Google Now launcher for free on the Google Play Store. So you can run these instead of Sense and still have access to all the other software on these devices. And of course, this is Android, and there are ways to root and unlock most smartphones, and this phone should be no exception. Unlocking, rooting, and ROMing is still a little bit of a fringe activity, but for those that do it, they already know how. And it's easy enough to learn for those that haven't done it yet. Also, Sony has their Xperia Z3 line, which around this time is about $600 for their international version, but we should see a price drop in the near future given current market conditions. Also, the Z3 Compact has already dropped to the $500 sales price, which is compelling since it's in even smaller form factor with nearly identical hardware to the Z3 non-compact edition. Only the screen is a 4.6-inch 720p screen and it has 2 gigs of RAM instead of 3 gigs of RAM. But if you want something closer to the size of the original Nexus 4, then this would be a great option. Both have dual front-facing speakers, large batteries, amazing 20-megapixel cameras, and offer unique compatibility with their Sony PS4 via their console game streaming technology. And remember the LG G3? Many of the same rules above apply to this, and you can get this phone with a 5.5-inch Quad HD screen for between $500 and $600 online outright, and it has a 3000 mAh battery in similar specs to the smartphones above. Last but not least, we also have Samsung's Galaxy S5. At this point, we're getting well outside the philosophy of the Nexus branding as we know it, but it's another comparable 5.2-inch 1080p screen smartphone with comparable hardware to all of the above smartphones for about $500 off contract. And you can use any launcher you want, even the Google Now launcher, and get a phone that's a bit of an upgrade from last year's Nexus 5 smartphone. And this has a removable battery, SD card slot, and the best performing cameras on Android, and typically the most accessory options. Also, some people actually do like having a home button. The point of this video is to make clear that we, the consumer, shouldn't have to wait another year for Google to make maybe a smaller Nexus smartphone with a 5-inch or so display. They may not do that entirely, or the Nexus line may cease to exist after this. We just don't know. And we also shouldn't feel forced into paying $650 to $700 for a 6-inch display smartphone. The Android ecosystem is better than it's ever been, and most Google applications and services get updated even if the version of Android does not. We can still root, carrier unlock phones, and many Android OEMs are more willing and able to provide operating system updates, and there's less of a gulf between Google's Nexus devices and those sold by OEMs in terms of off-contract pricing, software updates, and hardware features. Anyhow, this is my personal opinion, but I hope it provides you with some more things to think about. maybe an outside-the-box look at the current Android ecosystem, hardware and software. I personally love the Nexus lineup, and I still enjoy my Nexus 4 smartphone and original Nexus 7 tablet. That said, I've been, until now, considering getting the Nexus 6 smartphone, but I've been looking around, watching other reviews quite intently, and I'm actually considering getting one of the above mentioned smartphones. It's actually a bit of a tie, for me at least, between the Desire Eye and the Z3 Compact, though I still feel a strong compulsion to get the new Moto X. I already know I'm getting the S5 for my wife, who's used her S3 to the ground. We're both getting upgrades soon. That said, if you have a different opinion, believe I've missed or overlooked something, or I've made some sort of a technical error above, please let me know. I'm a one-man show here, and I'm not perfect. That said, I love Android. I want to see Google's platform continue to succeed, and I believe many of the OEMs like Oppo, OnePlus, Acer, and Asus, among others, are trying to improve over time and offer their own take on things. Remember, this is Android, and we do have options. Be together, not the same. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.